Logging code of practice to be reviewed. Effective intellectual property policy lacking in PNG. SP PNG Hunters winger Justin Olam wins People's Choice Award.
This is NBC Papua New Guinea National News.
Good evening, I'm Antonia Singud. A one-day workshop was held in Port Moresby today by the PNG Forest Authority to look at the reviewed logging code of practice. This is to ensure participants understand guidelines within the Logging Code of Practice, or LCOP. The code was introduced in 1996 to encourage sustainable use of PNG's forest and was revised and updated in 2013, particularly in areas of culture and biodiversity. Sheila Malkin reports.
The workshop was held at the Shady Rest Hotel at 3 Mile. The aim of this workshop is to introduce technical guidelines to forest workers, planners and landowners. Discussions was also held on how these guidelines might be used in the forest management planning. PNG FA Acting Managing Director Goodwill Amos was the keynote speaker during the opening of the workshop.
We're trying to ensure that what we have on paper here, when we come up with the final document, is not a paper that will stack away on our shelves or in our cupboards and forget about it. We need to take it up and ensure that we put the guidelines into action.
The revised code will soon be taken to the National Executive Council for approval.
And we won't make the same mistakes like we did in 1996. We only took care of training the PNG Forest Authority staff. No, this time we'll take care of the industry, because that's where it matters. They are the ones that on the ground there. So we need to take heed of this and ensure that our industry partners are also familiar with this code and the guidelines to ensure that we maintain our forest.
PNG FA is working in partnership with the Tasmanian Forest Practice Authority with funding from the Crawford Fund project in this initiative. The technical advisor also sheds some light of this revised and updated code.
What's been developed and what's now incorporated into the new Logging Code of Practice is a consideration of natural and cultural values as well as the wood values. So the guidelines that we've produced just help people decide which values are the most important. So which trees are the most important to keep for the biodiversity, and which soil types are the most vulnerable to disturbance. So maybe avoid logging on those particular soil types. How to protect streams. Which streams need bigger buffers on them than other streams. So that's the sort of thing that these guidelines recommend or help the planners.
Sheila Malkin, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
An effective intellectual property policy is needed in Papua New Guinea. This is to ensure intellectual property rights are protected to drive development. Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Francis Marus, says he is prepared to bring the policies before the National Executive Council. Miki Cavera reports.
The two-day Festival National Intellectual Property in Research and Development Forum was attended by various stakeholders. It was officially opened today by the Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Francis Marus. Discussions from the forum will assist in formulating a robust and effective IP in research and development policy. Minister Marus says an effective IP policy is needed to address the development challenges in the country.
It is certainly a long overdue but otherwise timely opportunity to discuss IP in research and development, to develop strategies and guidelines for the development of intellectual properties, benefit sharing and ethics in research to guarantee a healthy, prosperous and a happy society.
He says the value of intellectual property to the socio-economic growth and prosperity of PNG is very important. Minister Marus expressed his support for the development of a national policy on intellectual property in research and development to address ownership of research materials, among others.
As Minister responsible for higher education, research, science and technology, I will be making very effort through this current government to ensure that an appropriation is made from the annual budget to fund research and development. Hence, this morning, I wish to express my support for the development of this national policy on intellectual property and research and development.
Currently, much of the research does not have the protection of an IP, hence many individuals are missing out on the commercial benefits. Mickey Cavera, NBC National News, Port Moresby.
Delegates and officials from the APEC member economies are in Kokopo to discuss issues focused on fostering economic development in the APEC region. The meeting began yesterday, opened by Minister for Arts, Culture and Tourism, Tobias Kulang. This is the 49th Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation APEC Tourism Working Group Committee meeting. Minister Kulang told the APEC delegates and officials that Papua New Guinea is very honoured to host the meeting for the first time outside of Port Moresby since 1993, when PNG joined the APEC. He said Papua New Guinea is fully committed to working alongside APEC member economies to advance and promote better understanding and recognition of tourism as an engine for economic growth and prosperity, among others. The 49th APEC Tourism Working Group meeting will end tomorrow. Western Highlands Governor Pius Wingti says by 2017, his province will be the first in the country to have 40 high schools and secondary schools. He says this is according to his education supportive program to promote better education standards and quality learning in the province. Pius Wingti was speaking at the Tabaga in the Nobilia Valley during the opening of 8 new high schools and secondary schools. Jack Tame reports from Mount Hagen.
Governor Wingti, when addressing the crowd at the opening ceremony, said Western Highlands will be the first province in the country to have 40 high and secondary schools by 2017. He said 31 of them have already been established and 9 more to be built in the Hagen Open Electorate alone.
This province will have 40 high schools. And 40 high schools is the largest ever in the country. We now got 31 already, and some of them you have seen them in progress. They're not open yet. So that number is 31, and we're going to build 9 more in the Hagen Open District.
He further revealed that this is the first phase, and the second phase is to partner with the renowned tertiary educational institutions in the country to establish their campus in the province. He then offered his invitation to donor development partners to provide the technical expertise and financial support.
The only problem we're going to have is some components when we get to the next level of education. When we get to the next level of universities, colleges, technical colleges, that's the way we would have some of those resources. We don't have it. We have the timber, so we can build. We have the land, so we can give. We have the manpower, so we can build. But it's just some other components of tertiary level education that we don't have, and that would be a legitimate request to any aid donors.
Meanwhile, the Australian High Commissioner, His Excellency Bruce Davis, gave his assurance that the Australian government will provide its support in the future.
The opportunities that flow from this, for the opportunities around the establishment of higher education institutions and working and linking with Australian institutions like that, I reckon that's terrific. It's the way to go in the future, not for us to come in and do something by ourselves, but to build on the great stuff, the great activities, the great programs that you're doing yourselves.
Jack Tame, NBC National News, Mount Hagen.
Archbishop of the Catholic Church in Western Highlands and Jiwaka, Douglas Young, has challenged all men to respect women and stop all forms of violence against women. Archbishop Young issued the challenge during the 40-year anniversary celebration of the Tupa Catholic Parish in Jiwaka recently. Vanessa Ripa with this report from Mount Hagen.
During the Holy Mass to open the celebration, the Archbishop reminded the men among the Kuma and Siakang tribes near Kujib, after 40 years of the Catholic faith in Tuba, some of the negative attitudes and behaviors of men have to change towards women. Archbishop encouraged them that if men respect the rights of women, we will lose nothing but will gain benefits and development into the parish and the province.
Day long celebrating the renewing covenant. I think once the time where you must sing in this next 40 years long you must sing a special place from old Mary. Every time where you meet again, you look out him, now respect him, now take care, long body long all together Mary.
Archbishop Douglas further emphasized that the fact that many developed countries in the world are countries that respect the rights and dignity of women, while developing countries are still struggling because they have less respect for women and increased number of violence against women. The head of the Catholic Church in Western Highlands and Jiwaka challenged the people to renew their promise to move forward by recognizing the hard work of the pioneer missionaries and lay people to share the gospel of Christ.
So we make him this one time people of hope, because you stand up and have long or promise long before. Now you look in fruit long this promise. Fruit time we start 40 years of finish, you know clear. One something by start on this lab, on this time. You will start one time hope, now you will be working one time, now you will become along this mark. So now, time long renewing covenant again, long stand up and tap, long promise, you will finish, you will be ready long move forward.
Vanessa Ripa, NBC National News, Mount Hagen.
We now look at the weather preview with Douglas.
Thank you, Antonia. Good evening, everybody. A quick look at the weather. Port Moresby, Daru and Karema are fine, while showers expected for Wewak, Vanimo and Loringhau. Join me towards the end of the bulletin for the details. Antonia, again, it's back to you.
Thank you, Douglas. Coming up after the break, National Capital 41st Independence Celebration launched and new market opens in ATS settlement. Those stories coming up after the break. Stay with us on NBC National News.